Hello and welcome back to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I'm your host, Scott Minton. Today we are at the Casey Jones Distillery here in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and we are with the COO, Chief Operating Officer of Casey Jones, Mr. Cody Turner. Cody, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you all immensely. Thank you.
Hey, no, thanks for coming on. First of all, we had a great tour with a young lady named April. By the way, double thumbs up for April. We had a good time with her. She did threaten to beat me up once, but that's probably my fault. So
self-inflicted, yes.
Self-inflicted wounds, absolutely. So, but great job by her. We really appreciate everything she did.
Me.
She does love the legend. She was being all sweet on the legend.
Yeah, twice. She said that she loved him.
She did. She's like, I love you. And like, she felt bad because the legend didn't want to walk someplace. She's like, but we don't want to leave him. And I'm like, it's okay. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. She's like, I love you. And so we just kind of like, but yeah, we April was great. So if you come,
I don't even know what honeysuckle is.
100%. So, but if you come to Casey Jones, you should ask for April. That would be my recommendation because we had a great time with her.
Yeah, great tour.
Good deal. So let's dive into Casey Jones and what makes you guys unique, how you got started, a little bit of history and heritage. But before we dive into that piece, tell us a little bit about yourself, Cody.
Yeah, so Cody Turner, I'm the COO and one of the partners here at the distillery, along with founders Peg Hayes and Arlen Casey Jones. I came into the scene about 3 years ago, or actually a little bit over 3 years ago now. Originally, Casey Jones was a client of mine. I'm one of the founders of the Bowling Green Bourbon and Brew Fest. Actually, we started that with 3 other people. We ended up selling that in 2022, I believe, as the crow flies. And that was really kind of my first sort of introduction to Casey Jones. We were in the midst of running that event. I also co-owned a marketing firm with two other peers at the time, and we were doing sort of marketing for local clients and whatnot. And Casey Jones had just wrapped up a contract with the firm in Nashville, Lewis Communications, which is actually who's redoing the Kentucky Bourbon Trail work right now. It's pretty fascinating. So, and they were looking for somebody local to take on the job, and found us through our website, and really liked that we had the connection to the industry with the Bowling Green Bourbon and Brew Fest already, and so we kind of made the connection from there. We worked for a couple of years together, and then, of course, in 22, as I said, we sold the Brew Fest at the time, and flying out to Europe for a week trip that we had planned. I think we landed stateside the day after they canceled international travel. It was just like wild, right? I remember getting a call from Peg. I definitely have my dates wrong because I said 22. This is obviously 2020. Jesus, time flies. Anyways, we land stateside, and I get a call from Peg, and of course, at the time, nobody really knew what was going on or making sense of it, and all of the businesses that were deemed non-essential had to close, and so distilleries initially were deemed non-essential, and so she said, hey, we've got to kind of close the doors. And so, no problem. We'll take care of the marketing fees, consulting fees. We'll figure it out, and that's kind of what everybody was doing at the time. And then I think like 3 or 4 days later, I get a very different call from her, and she says, hey, we've connected with some folks down in Georgia, Froggy's Fog, which makes, the fog for fog machines, incidentally. And they had a component that's really critical for hand sanitizer, and they were looking for somebody to be able to produce and supply alcohol to make sanitizer. And simultaneously, Peg and AJ had a conversation with the local ethanol plant, who had an abundance of alcohol, but was looking for somebody who had the other component to make the hand sanitizer. And so they ended up being this connector of these two entities, and came up with this partnership to create sanitizer and sell it. So she says, can you help us sort of get this stuff online? My background, prior to that, I'd actually taught at Western for 10 years in social media marketing and advertising. And so, Ubiquitous is like, yeah, of course, let's do that. So I think within like 48 hours, I had all of their, sanitizer sales online, picking tickets, customer service, email, full e-com, like just there, ready to go. And we turned the machine on, and, at the time, Lord Zuckerberg and his pals did not want you to advertise anything to do with PPC, and so I kind of made my way around that anyways. Got Facebook ads running, Google ads running, and we ended up selling something like I don't know, 300,000 gallons of sanitizer in like 16 months.
Wow.
It was just wild. I mean, you just literally could not even imagine. Peg and AJ were fielding everything here, running ops, packaging, taking orders, printing tickets, getting stuff out the door. And initially my wife and I, eventually we were both actually working on it. All the customer service, all the ads, all the emails that came in, et cetera. And we were all working 14-hour days, just back to back to back. But it was just wild. And of course, that eventually abated, and the CARES Act expired. I think it was 22 is when it actually expired. And so distilleries lost the ability to produce sanitizer without the required, I can't remember the entity's licensing, which is actually very expensive. And so we kind of came out of that deal. But after that ended, approached Peg and AJ about the option to pursue a partnership. AJ's got family, but they have their own careers, and they're really not interested in taking over the distillery. And it seemed like a natural fit for where everybody was at in their lives, and we came to terms and got a partnership running, and I guess the rest is sort of history. So.
It's funny how now we are at the point where it's like, did that happen before or after COVID? It's like everything around our world seems like it's kind of went that route. So it's a neat story.
Wait, so when you were so busy making sanitizer, how many people were working here at that time? Because you sold a metric ton.
Oh yeah, it was intense. And just so wild because, initially it was like they had to lay everybody off because the doors had to be closed, and then, the CARES Act passes, and then now you're an essential business, and let's help distilleries make sanitizer. And so they ended up bringing more than the original staff back, just on a temporary basis to be able to produce and ship.
Yeah, I'm sure that that your local community appreciated that.
Oh yeah, it was wild. I think AJ could probably speak to this more. Obviously, they were on boots on the ground here, but I've heard stories that the local churches were very appreciative. So.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah. Kind of segueing that, how did Casey Jones, the name of the distillery, come about?
Yeah, great. So, I like to say that we probably have the second most compelling story in the industry. I will absolutely give the nod to Uncle Nearest. It's hard to outstory that, be fair.
Fair, yeah.
But Casey is obviously the distillery's namesake, and you might surmise that's AJ's grandfather. Casey was a still builder during Prohibition in the what's now called the Land Between the Lakes area. It's about 45 minutes west of the distillery. He was illiterate, couldn't read, couldn't write, but just an engineering marvel and could build anything he set his mind to. And as a young man, once he was challenged to make a still. The first still that he ever made, first still he ever saw was the first one he made. So he was just that sort of adept. He was a coffin builder by trade, which inspired his design cues. And so he ended up making a square pot still, or sometimes referred to as a coffin still. Now, the still, obviously, you can imagine square in shape. It's actually a little bit more rectangular than that. But it had a lot of design advantages. The stills, they have handles soldered onto the side of the still body itself. The line arm has handles, and the condenser itself has handles as well. And the profile of the still was such that it would fit in the back of a Model A pickup truck for very, very obvious reasons. The low profile allowed it to fit really in the tailgate, and you could throw a tarp over it, and nobody would be the wiser. This is prior to TSA checks and whatnot. So.
Yes.
What you got under that thing, boy? Yeah. So, if we wanted to go out and make shine, again, you could just grab one end of the still. I'd grab the other. One of us would strap the line arm onto the back, and the other one would take the condenser and off to the woods, and there we go. We'd be able to make moonshine pretty quick. The flat design lets you set it up on just a pile of rocks, on either side, light a fire underneath, and you're golden. Incredibly efficient. The even heating surface of the flat bottom on the still was very appropriate for the need to be able to produce quickly. And we don't really talk about it too much, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it here, but just some of the magic, honestly, behind Casey's ingenuity is, he was building double-walled copper condensers, akin to the kind that you see in a modern still now, but he was doing that 100 years ago with hand tools. And most stills, moonshiners at the time, they were using just a 53-gallon barrel and running a copper worm through it. So his design was just way more efficient and needed to be for obvious reasons. And of course, his gift was a bit of his curse as well, because if you were a revenuer, you didn't exactly have to have Sherlock Holmes to your side to figure out who made the square still that you ran into in the woods. So every time they ran into one, it's pretty obvious. I wonder who did this, right? And that's Casey's work. And so he was actually busted for moonshining still making twice. And both times he was sent to Mill Point Penitentiary, which you all probably know is lovingly referred to as Moonshiners U, because all the moonshiners were captured there, and they would basically share tips amongst each other while they were doing time. The second time he gets busted, the feds actually threatened him with a life sentence, and as any rational actor would do, it's like, well, I'm kind of done with that. So he hangs up his hat, and years later, weird turn of events that, honestly, this is like all the makings for a Hallmark movie. The same federal government ended up collaborating with the Tennessee Valley Authority, damming up the then land between the rivers and turning them into the land between the lakes to build the hydropower plants that we know and use today. Of course, they put in a visitor center at the head of the lakes, and in the visitor center, they decided to erect a still, and they put Casey's name on the still. And so, he's an older man now, and he drives by the visitor center because he's heard tell about this still with his name on it, and sure enough, he goes in there and he finds out that it's been done, and they decided to put his namesake on it, and it didn't settle with him very well at all, as you might imagine. So he more or less gave him an ultimatum that they either take the thing out or they're going to pay him to make a still. And the same federal government that put him to jail twice or prison twice actually commissioned him to make a still.
That's crazy.
So he builds one for the visitor center. It's his only legally produced still. And there it sits in the visitor center for years and years and years, long past his passing. And so, again, years later, Peg Hayes, and I guess this is about 13, 14 years ago, she's driving by the visitor center one day, stops in to check, as one does, and the still's gone. It's disappeared. And so this is kind of her and AJ's connection to Casey, and they start poking around, like trying to figure out what happened to this thing. And this culminates in a conversation with the head of the U.S. Forestry Department, and correspondence and later, proof of documents, et cetera, later, ended up, saying, proving this is actually AJ's grandfather's still. And in another crazy turn of events that nobody's like, how in the world did this happen? The government decides to give AJ the still back. All right.
Which still distilling wasn't legal. Go figure.
Go figure. So what I hear is, normally a 45-minute drive turned into like a 15-minute drive as they hightail it up there to go get the still. And they arrive to the visitor center, and sure enough, in a storage container sits Casey's only legally made still.
And was that still perfectly intact?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
From what I understand, yeah.
Because I could see how they may try and make it so it could not be used again.
Yeah. Yeah. So AJ and Peg grab, they load up Casey's still, and they bring it back to what is, where we're sitting now, which was at that point in time just their homestead. And AJ does what anybody would do. You ended up with your grandfather's only. Yeah.
You got to see if it still works.
Yeah, you got to know. I mean, how would they know? You got to know, right?
That's right. You got to test things.
So he puts everything together, and lo and behold, Casey's pretty good at making stills, as it turns out. So the story goes, and obviously wasn't present for it, but I hear that Peg sees one too many cars leaving one too many times late at night from the garage. For whatever reason, I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Could be anything. Yeah.
Is that the same garage where the still is right now?
Yeah, actually. So the still that AJ built, that's actually where everything, all that sort of magic happened, or could have happened, we'll say. Yeah. So, anyways,
Allegedly.
It's all alleged.
Yeah, quote fingers in the air.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Surely there's a statute of limitations by this point.
I think, 7 years for the statute of limitations for certain crimes? I don't know. I don't know what that one is. So we're allegedly legend.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the podcast version of air quotes is, but we're doing that now.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
everybody's on the same
That's
page.
allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, just imagine it. So, I hear Peg basically says to AJ that, like, look, we're going to do this right or we're not going to do it at all. Like, those are the choices. And so they decide to apply for the DSP. And AJ used his grandfather's still to build his own handmade 120-gallon square pot copper still, which we ran on for the first 8 years of operation, which is just wild. I mean, like, you can put craft on anything. It's just a word. But, I don't think it gets much more craft than that. And it's like literally so much of the things that you all have enjoyed on the Tasty today distilled on that handmade still. So.
It's really different when you look at that still, though. Like, in Nick and I had a conversation on the ride down here with, I wonder how efficient it is in retrospect, because obviously the corners are different and things like that. And then we started thinking, well, with the flat bottom and then the most, like, we started like trying to figure out the science behind how this thing works as efficiently as a typical still would work. So maybe if you could elaborate a little bit behind that piece, like maybe the science piece, or do you even really know? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said, yeah, I absolutely know empirically this is what's happening. I mean, I can't speak to that. I can speak to some things that I do know for sure. Like,
Gotcha.
Obviously, it's hard to agitate a square still.
Right.
Big problem, right?
Yep.
So you're going to run bourbon on it. You have to do a stripping run. You have to separate the solids from the liquids every time. Like, it's a giant pain in the butt. Can be done. So mostly what we've used the still for is predominantly production of the moonshine mash with the sour mash process, and we do separate the liquids from the solids and distill on that. At 120 gallons, 10% yield or so of hearts off of it every time. I mean, it runs like a little clock. You'll get about 18 gallons of pure hearts off of it every time you run it, and it's high-quality spirits for sure. Now, interestingly enough, we had some the folks from Whiskey University here that did a 3-day course where they went over sort of the insides and outsides of distilling and whatnot, and they looked at the equipment. I talked to the professor that was teaching that class, and he was really intrigued about it as well. He told me that there's actually a distillery in Sweden that has a square column still.
Huh.
And the place is, it's Heaven Distillery or something like that. Yeah. So I haven't looked this up, but he was saying that he can see that you probably get actually quite a bit of reflux in the corners of the still.
Yeah, almost like a thumper would do. Yeah, I was wondering about that, because that's when I start thinking about it, I'm like, when you think of thumpers or doubles or anything like that, like, is that where some of that comes from? But yeah, that makes sense.
Well, and what's really interesting, so I said we ran on that still for the first 8 years. We ended up retiring that. It was Q4 of 22, very into the year. We did the last run on it, and then brought online the new equipment that we're obviously using in March of 23. Amongst that equipment is a custom still that we had made for us called the Grandfather, which is an industrial grade 200-gallon square pot still. Our stills were built by Specific Mechanical out of British Columbia. They're just top-class folks. Did a fantastic job. There's a whole story about the Grandfather still and them producing it, but the short of it is, we sent them a lot of pictures and design specs and whatnot from the still that AJ built, and then pictures of Casey's original still. And the engineers were just absolutely amazed about the angles and the geometry and the pitch of the lean arm back to the still body itself was all right. Like, it was just like it was what it needed to be for the size and shape. And they made a point to comment about the ingenuity and the engineering behind it. It's really interesting.
Some people talk about the Bourbon Pompeii. This is more like the pyramids. Yeah, really. In that, like, mathematically, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, kind of following up on this a little bit, Casey wasn't actually his name, was it?
Yeah, not many people know this story, but his actual name was Alfred. He picked up Casey as a nickname. Obviously, you'd think it's hard to. 100 years ago seems like a long, long time ago, and it definitely was a different time. But we're talking about Prohibition, and you just didn't have an exuberance of wealth. And so what would happen with Casey is, like, oftentimes people couldn't pay him to build the stills that he built. So he would commission them, basically, and he would take a cut of whatever they produced in the form of cases off of the still. And so he ended up being called that Casey guy as a nickname, as a moniker, and it just stuck.
That's awesome.
So let's dive into a little bit to, like, you guys got some unique mash bills. Like, when I sit back and I look at, all the distilleries that are around the country and all the whiskey I've drank over the time, you've definitely got some of the more unique ones. Let's talk a little bit about that, and then while we're doing that, let's talk a little bit about what we're sipping on.
Yeah. So we just started our 10th year last November, and I think I just don't really. That's really young for a bourbon company.
Oh, 100%.
It's just young.
Yeah.
Like there's still so many things that we want to figure out or trying to figure it out and playing with. I mean, when we walked into the Rick House, when he commented about like I've seen a lot of different entry proofs here, and I mean that's by design. You just don't know where the perfect entry proof is for the mash bill. You don't know, the pinnacle of that age statement versus that bill. How that char, that toast is going to be for that particular mash bill, for that entry proof. Like there's so much the experimentation that really still needs to happen. The mash bills are part of that. I mean, we have several different bourbon mash bills that we're playing with and blending that we're doing, and it's all guys to learn.
You're kind of doing the shotgun aspect right now, trying to do a scatter shot and trying to figure out what hits really good for you guys.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is that a lot of the barrels that are there are no drill holes whatsoever. So somebody's got a lot of patience, or they're really good at hiding it.
Yeah, we sample methodically, I guess we should say. Yeah.
We were at another distillery a few weeks ago that's also 10 years old. And one of the most interesting comments they made is that their products are now just getting to basically 5 years old because they tried so many different things trying to figure out where they wanted to be. And, it just took a lot of experimentation, a lot of different approaches to things, and they're finally really comfortable. And, I can understand why it would be that kind of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, to borrow from the brewery space, Leinenkugel is probably one of the best examples I can think of. I mean, they've been business for 100+ years. Took them forever to find like their one product, which interestingly enough is Summer Shandy, which they didn't come up with, I think like 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm around there. Yeah.
That's it is weird how those things happen. So one of the things I'm noticing, because we're in the Rick House right now doing this recording, is that is Kelvin the only cooperage you guys use?
Yeah, we exclusively use Kelvin cooperage.
Gotcha.
And have since day one. So.
If I remember correctly, April said you all prefer the char number 4 for your barrels.
For now, yeah. I mean, I think when we get into older age statements, I think that's probably going to drift to lower chars. Just my intuition, but for now, yeah, predominantly 4s. We have some 3s that we haven't harvested out of yet, but we're intrigued to see the difference in the flavor profile from that.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's weird. Like as the industry goes on, now you're seeing even like people are flirting with toasted heads and char 4 or toasted barrels and then char level 1. Like all the things that you're seeing now that are creating more complexity in what we would have typically thought of as a traditional bourbon. So I'm anxious to see what that kind of turns out to. So
yeah, no, I mean, I think the entire industry is almost violently moving away from the notions of traditional bourbon as quickly as it possibly can in a weird way. It's like that notion of, and I try to articulate it this way, Brown-Forman, Jim, Beam Suntory, Sazerac, that story's already been told. It's like we're going to make the same thing every year. It's going to be released, the same age statement every year, the same proof every year, and it's going to be consistent. It's great. It's a great product, but this is our line.
Yep.
And Kraft has come in and said, yeah, well, no, let's do something completely different and find some new expressions and new ways to treat America's darling here and figure out what we can do with it.
I think one of the things that's great about a distillery that's 10 years old is that instead of hearing just about the history, we get to experience and kind of take the journey with you all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Walking through and I was the one that had said there are so many different entry proofs. You add different mash bills as well. That's really, really cool to see. When you go to the large ones, you don't really see that too much.
Is there an entry proof that you guys are starting to hone in on that you feel like is kind of your sweet spot?
Yeah. So there's an interesting dynamic at play with this. There's so much. I mean, we'd have a whole podcast on this piece entirely, just the economics of bourbon. But just when it comes to, and no offense to the accountants that are listening, but when it comes to the bean counters, it's like really the game is as much alcohol in the bourbon barrel as you possibly can get every time.
So they want you to go 125.
Yeah, every time, right?
Yep.
Because you're trying to get the unit cost of your proof gallons down as low as possible, and that's one way to manage that. Yep. But then, the artist, the distilling side of it is like, yeah, but is that the best? Is that going to produce the best product? And the answer to that question is obviously no, it's not. So two things that we've found, I think, is sort of emergent properties from the things that we've been playing with. One, the barrel cut product that we make, which is distilled from 50 corn and 50 cane sugar. Sour mash process, fantastic product. We found that really is actually at a sweet spot in the mid to upper 90s on an entry proof, which is really low.
That is really low.
But good Lord, it just makes such a good, decadent, sweet, Werther's Original, caramel, vanilla, brown sugar, just perfectness.
But with all fairness, sugar's a lot cheaper than corn, or it's not.
It's not. Sugar's really expensive.
See, I thought sugar would be much cheaper
Yeah.
from that portion of it. Is it because of how much sugar you have to use to get to that?
Yeah, and it's just
Okay.
it's just expensive.
Gotcha.
Corn's cheap. Corn's
Yeah.
really cheap. Yeah, yellow dent corn's the way to go if you can. But sugar's not cheap at all. Yeah.
You kind of honing in on the aspects of the Rick House. Very early on, and I know you're still experimental, but have you started noticing any sections in the Rick House that might start being kind of your favorite, or where you think some of the better stuff is coming from as of yet?
No, I don't think so at all. And you all have been in several Rick houses. This one's it's small. Like it's a very small Rick house, and so you're not getting the benefit of a lot of the temperature differences that you would in a larger, like some of those. Bardstown's building these just monolithic, beautiful structures, and they've adapted doing the the one corner with the glass, so you've got a hot spot that you're using. I love what they're doing. It's amazing.
Yep.
But this is much more traditional pole barn style, traditional ricks, bilge bunged barrels, and we've got some minor insulation on the walls and ceiling just to prevent the metal from sweating, and that's it. So I don't know that we're going to have that effect here.
Well, I mean, as I said, you'd be surprised. We have a couple craft distilleries near us that are very similar in size to this right here, and they've honed in on some either corner or so far up that they've kind of honed in. They've been going for more number of years, but they have about this size. And I think over the course of time you might start being able to zero in on some stuff.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about what we're drinking, and then kind of dive into some other aspects. So you said this one's your all's high corn mash bill, and it's been finished in some kind of an apricot wine.
Yeah, so there's a local distillery. I keep saying distillery. Sorry, there's a local vineyard that came to us and wanted to age some of their wine in a used bourbon barrel to infuse some bourbon flavor into it. So this is their apricot wine that they make, and we gave them a high rye bourbon barrel to finish in. They aged their wine for I think 3 or 4 months. Don't recall the exact amount of time. But then we got the barrel back, and then we put our high corn bourbon mash bill into it, and that's been aging or resting in that barrel for about 4 months. This is a part of our Finish Line series, which is 3 spirits release that we're going to taste here today, and we're starting again with the apricot wine finish. This one is just so fascinating to me because I will tell you, when I had the wine itself and the bourbon itself, I thought there was no way that these were going to play nicely together. But good God, did it ever turn out just excellent.
All right, just looking at so everybody's aware of some of the stats on the bottle. It is 50.25 ABV, which turns out just over 100, which it's 100.5 proof. Now, bottle looks beautiful. I really enjoy that kind of inlay that you have there. And I noticed it says batch fentanyl. There's certain different batches as part of this Finish Line series?
Yeah, so we're all about transparency in the industry. We, if you go to our website, I'm sure you guys saw full information about the mash bills that we're using. We're taking it one step further. Each one of our series that we're releasing, of course, this being the Finish series, I have information about every batch. So you'll know what we put into what barrels, what the source barrels were, the entry proofs of those barrels, char, toast, size, how long it was rested in the finished barrel, if it was finished in a second barrel, how long, the whole process, full transparency.
Yeah, thank you. That's the stuff that we love.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think it resonates well for people who are really interested in the craft. It's like you want to know.
Now, as of this recording, these aren't released yet. Does that sound about right? If you want to kind of talk to maybe the planned release for these.
Yeah, so I actually just finished putting these online for pre-order. So we're taking pre-orders for these through May 4th at the end of the day. And so we've got 50 of each one of these expressions available online. And then we'll have May 2nd and 3rd. May 2nd, we'll have a VIP pre-release dinner for up to 32 guests in the very rick house that we're sitting in right now, actually. And those guests will have a chance to do curated tasting and dinner with the distiller and have access to purchase any of the Finish Line bottles that day. And then the following day, Saturday the 3rd, we're going to have the Finish Line main event, free to the public, derby watch party, launch of the bottles, food truck, live music, you name it. Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, I was a little leery when you said apricot wine. I'm not going to lie, but it does marry fairly well. It's still a little corn forward. I thought I'd get a little bit more of that stone fruit, but it's definitely a unique flavor there.
Yeah, on the nose, like I'm getting honey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I go back, it's honey.
Yeah.
Which, as a big guy, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I love how the tartness of the apricot wine is like it's tart and dry. I mean, it's bitter, but the that high corn bourbon mash bill and the sweetness from that is really, really balanced well in this.
It makes it chewy.
Yeah.
Like every time I take a sip, as it gets a little dry, I start to chew it, and yes.
So you guys have 5 unique mash bills. Let's go through those real quick, and then we can pass another bottle around, and then kind of go from there. So you got the one which you're talking about right now, which is the high corn, which is what, 96% corn?
Yeah, 96-3-1. So 96 corn, 3 rye, 1 malted barley. That was our original mash bill. And in the bourbon, straight bourbon bottle, it's the white label. Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is it's almost like a 75-21-4.
It's actually 80-16-4.
80-16-4, okay.
And that's actually a blend of the 96-3-1 and 75-21-4 that we're using to make the 80-16.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got what is, I guess, it's technically what, a 3 grain, but it's 4 because you get the Bloody Butcher. Okay, let's go through that.
So then the 4 grain wheat, which is the red label, that's 26.5% Bloody Butcher, same amount yellow dent, 35% soft red winter wheat, and 12% malted barley. And if you want some real fun insider baseball, the barley is actually a 4-to-1 ratio of Pilsner and Caramel 60.
Really? Caramel 60? Mm-hmm. For a home brewer, Caramel 60 gives off a ton of really, really chewy notes, especially for beer and things like that. So that's really neat. That's cool.
Yeah, we didn't like traditional distiller's malt, and I think wheat can leave to those grass clipping notes in bourbon, and it's anathema to me. So we all agreed we didn't want to go that route.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, I'm wondering when somebody's going to actually bring malt into the party, right?
Yeah,
Like when you sit back and you think about all the things that malt do, like crystals or one of the other ones from that brewing aspect. But it's really unique when you sit back and you start thinking about all the other things that could be introduced in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny. You're seeing, obviously there's malted rye out there now, and so the malt process is now starting to be a part of the other grains, but it does make you wonder. I mean, it is brewing.
Yes.
It's entirely brewing, so why not in the whiskey space as well?
100%, yeah. So what's the next bottle we're passing around?
Yeah, so I'm torn. I think we're going to go with the wheat next.
Wheat?
Yeah, so this is maple wheat bourbon. So same sort of deal. So we sent a bourbon barrel to Maple Farmer, and they finished their maple syrup in the barrel. We get the barrel back, and then we put our 4-grain wheat into that barrel. So this is a maple syrup finished wheat.
Save some for the rest of us, Nick, Good Lord. And by the way, I love these little tasting glasses. They're like baby Canadian Glens.
Yeah, Scott likes his Canadian
I'm a
Glens.
Canadian Glen freak. Like, I absolutely love a Canadian Glen. And these being like little tiny baby Canadian Glens, I love these.
This glass is
what's
called
the mash bill on this?
Oh, it's the 26.5% Bloody Butcher corn, yellow dent, and wheat, malt barley. Yeah, yeah. The glass is called a Burns, by the way, a Burns glass.
Jeez, OP. So it's
Well,
not.
wait a minute.
It's
You're
not a
calling
mini.
me-
It's not a mini. I did not pour this.
I'm about to say, you're calling me out on my pour, and I'm looking at your pour.
Barbara poured this one for me, and she's not here. Obviously, Brian, the ghost of Barbara, entered Brian's body. Oh, the nose on this one's nice.
Oh, yeah. It's very soft.
Yep, soft. That little bit of honey, like smell, like sweetness, but it's maple syrupy too. It's not quite pancakey. I was expecting like more of like that like pancake type smell. There's also a fruit note. Where does that? That's insane. Like, where's that fruit coming from? Because I don't get that off your traditional one when I tried it earlier, the traditional wheater.
No, it's wild because the 4-grain wheat is all honey and herbal sweet tea,
Right,
all
yeah.
the way down,
Yeah.
and almost a honey nut Cheerios thing kind of going on with it. So there's no fruit in it whatsoever. So I couldn't even begin to tell you. That's what you love about this stuff. Like, you just don't know how it's going to turn out.
So how long have these been bottled?
Oh, we literally just bottled them. I think the end of February, and let me say that they're not. We just bottled and labeled them. We just got the labels like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so this is one of the times where I wish we had video.
Yeah.
Because really, like, for your first 2 pours, you're smelling it and you're smiling.
Yeah.
It's cool to see that. Like, like we can see the passion.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was the objective. Is like I said, so many people got into the finished space, and some people were great at it, and some people sort of, were okay at it. Because it is challenging to marry some of these wild sort of concepts together and end up with a finished product that, hits at the heart of something you want to achieve. And, Penelope comes to mind. They mastered it. They did such a good job with it. Barrel Craft Spirits, I mean, come on, just knocking it out of the park left and right. We wanted to get into the space, but we wanted to make sure that we were doing it right.
So I'm getting like almost like this like Bosch pear that's marrying in with that little bit of that maple syrup. It's really, I mean, this is probably the favorite, the best thing I've tasted all day. I'm not gonna lie. I've tried a lot of different stuff from you guys already, but this has got a really, really nice fruity undertone. But it's really, really married well with that maple syrup flavor.
I'm going to throw something really weird at you. Think of pear banana Foster, but without the banana. Just like
like that baking
pear
spice, yeah.
Foster.
Yeah, like that creamy.
Yes.
I don't hate that.
Now,
with this, so how many iterations were there until you found the thing that you're like, this is it?
So the process is typically we'll take the source spirits and we'll play with those in the liquid variety for a bit and see if we find something that strikes us, a spark of like, oh, okay, this could be something that we want to do. And then, like the next spirit we're going to try here, well, I can really attest to, it's just tasting rigorously. Okay, every week, okay, every month. Is this getting where we need it to? Is it not? And then keeping some of the original source material to be able to pull it back if it goes too far. So there's really kind of a meticulous process in all this.
do you have about an average time that these have kind of stayed in the finishing barrel?
Yeah, so back to the transparency piece. Actually, on the website, I have the exact amount of time that it's been.
For each batch?
For each batch,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
And I think, if I remember correctly, and I just did this work this morning, I think this is a year and 4 months.
Oh, wow. So because traditionally, for a lot of the finished products, you see people only do, 3 months, 6 months, maybe 9 months. So there is a small set that usually go past that 9 month mark.
I think that the finished space is still largely up for exploration because of that. Because you don't really know. A maple barrel is not a maple barrel. It's like it's going to have its own sort of characteristic to it, and we're not doing large batches of 100 barrel blends at once. So there's still a ton of variants that we're talking about, and how that maple interfaces with the actual mash bill that you're putting into it. It's just going to vary wildly. Like again, we're getting pear off this and fruit notes. There's nothing
no pear
fruity about it at all, And it's just that interface of this particular mash bill, when it was younger, it was mostly like, say, black tea and some notes of honey. And as it's matured, it's gone into that Louisiana sweet tea, herbal, earthy space, Honey Nut Cheerios. And who knew that maple would have taken it this direction, right?
What's
And
the proof on this one? Sorry.
Proof is 105.
105. Gotcha. Okay. So it's still drinking a little under proof. But back to the Honey Nut Cheerios, like you like surprised that it moved that way.
Yeah. It's really interesting, and that's what I'm getting at with. I still think there's a great deal of innovation in this space because I don't think anybody's had enough time to really sort all this out just yet. Like, what is the optimal mash bill for a maple syrup barrel and the optimal amount of time? And I mean, it may actually be quite a bit longer than we think. Just don't know.
Well, not only that too, you have to deal with the fact of how much stuck to the inside of the barrel when they dumped it, right? Like how thorough were they when they cleared it out, things to that nature. I've even heard some places that actually will wash them a little bit with a little bit of water and then put their liquid in. So it's all about how you get it, you send it, get it back.
Yep.
Like it's just a process in general.
Yeah, we've done maple in the past. We've never really released finished out into the wild, so this is the first time we're sort of doing this. But we did a maple in the past, and I guess the maple was just less viscous than other times, and it was able to permeate the char of the barrel, and it brought a lot of that smoke from the char into this. It was wild.
Wow, like smoke maple.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Wow.
It was. You would have called it peated if you didn't know better. Like, it was smoky. Yeah.
Wow.
Plus, you have the variants too, right? Like who made the maple syrup? Like, I mean, maple syrup made in, Tennessee or Indiana or Kentucky all could be different based off of all those regions and how they cook it and get everything, married out. So
Delicious.
it is. It's very tasty.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And it doesn't drink to proof. That's the one thing I love it when somebody makes a spirit that drinks below proof because, like, you're getting complexity typically in those situations.
It shows craftsmanship.
Absolutely, that too. So let's go back a little bit to kind of the story. When you look at the history of, how Casey got started, and it's funny. So the first time I Googled Casey Jones, the railroad came up out of Tennessee. And I was like, well, this is weird. So then I started doing more research. And the fact that he was more of a steelmaker than an actual moonshiner himself, like, how neat is that from a complexity standpoint of, like, how it got started to where it is today? So when he made stuff, like, because from my understanding from the story, even, like, he didn't make as much as he kind of got back from the stills that he delivered.
Correct.
How did they decide what they were going to do from those mash bill standpoints? Like, were there recipes that he had, or were there other recipes that they're just, like, stole from Moonshiner's U, whatever you want to say from that? So. Yeah,
so, the moonshine recipe, the corn and cane barrel cut recipe, that is an homage to Casey, and our understanding, from what I know, that AJ understood this is what was made, that this is what Casey made back in the day. And I think the background behind that is that you would buy and use cane sugar to ferment faster than corn normally would by itself.
Gotcha.
Because obviously yeast like sugar. All right, this is raw sugar. Here we go. Right?
100%.
And then also to obfuscate purchases if you were not a farmer. Like, what are you buying all this cane, all this corn for? What's that about, right? So I think that's my understanding about the original recipe in the same yeast strain that Casey used back in the day. The bourbon mash bill direction, that's really all, AJ's big contribution to the industry is the 9631. That was his brainchild. Obviously when we first started, we didn't have a bunch of that stuff called Dad's Money.
Yep.
I like daddy money. I wish I had some, but I don't.
I don't think any of us are good enough looking to have daddy money, as it turns out. So I'll take that in a different direction.
Absolutely.
And so, you have to start with clear spirits, and, we obviously had the square pot still, which, as I mentioned earlier, it's really hard to agitate square corners. So we did a lot of contract distillation, used Wilderness Trail, Jeff the Creed, and B. Rowan down the road, good friends of ours. And when he started down that path, he's like, I want to do something a little bit different. And so he came up with this 9631 mash bill. And we didn't wrap up all of the mash bills. I think we didn't finish talking about the total clips. But the 9631 is it's fascinating on as that product's matured. I've got I think I'll have my first 7-year-old barrel this November of that product, and it's probably one of the barrels sitting over there, just off to our left.
I've got a drill.
Oh my God! So it's fascinating. Last year was our first 5-year, and we cracked into 3 of them. Had never been sampled out of before, which was just not last year, year prior. Excuse me.
That's preposterous that you didn't sample those.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just the small batch version of that now at this point is around 4 years old, and it's a great. Hey, I want to get into bourbon. I don't know where to start. Because it has the low rye component, it's not spice heavy. It's sweet forward, and at the 4-year statement, it's like toasted brown sugar. It's pretty much what you get out of it. It's great.
Gotcha.
It's great, like entry level. It does not pair well with yard work. Ask me how I know. But as the single barrels, again at that 6-year age statement, my God, like it's turned into this. Like I had a single barrel at the 6-year. 5.8 year age statement, and you guys have been to Cracker Barrel, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You walk into the back, the hostess, you put your name in, the hostess stand. They got a big open face barrel with ice in it. There's all these little sodas in it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
You know that Stewart's cream soda?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yum.
Yeah.
Yum.
Yeah. So I had this as 115 proof cast strength. 5-year-old of that 9631 single barrel. My God, it was basically Stewart's cream soda. It's like all those sugars have matured and it's turned into sassafras and cream soda flavor, and like it's just it's decadent, just decadent. And the wood has added that character over time, and it's getting into its own. It's like getting to that perfect place where the distillate age and the wood influence is at its peak, like it's where it needs to be.
So this is where we pause the show, we play the music, and then we get a drill out, and we start drilling. I love some cream soda.
Do you have barrels of mash bills in here that you have eliminated from production, or pretty much everything that you're doing has been from the start?
That's a great question, and the answer to that would be never. Like, there's always a way. There's always a way to use it, right? And so, what I would say is, like, if we end up to a point where we want to discontinue a product line, maybe we end up we won't produce it anymore. But what we found is there is always a way to use the spirit.
Well, I wasn't suggesting that you wouldn't use it.
Yeah.
That maybe there's a blend of the grains that you no longer like as compared to what you're doing now.
No, I definitely understand what you're saying, and that's what it's like. Even so, like, okay, so the deal was like, say we made some crazy like one-off mash bill. I don't know, just dream whatever up, like whatever, mash bill X, and age it. Okay, 4 years, it's still not there. 5 years, it's not there. 6 years, it's not there. 7 years, it's not there. It's just never going to be there. You would discontinue the line, but you've got this huge backstock of that inventory that you got to do something with. And so I think the point I'm trying to get at is like you would always find, you may discontinue it at that point, but there's always something you can end up doing with it, which is really fascinating. So like we were talking about the 9631, and that being kind of an innovation that AJ brought into the space. Mash Bill 2 is that 80-16-4. And we're actually blending 9631 with 75-21-4 barrels to make that 80-16-4. And we just we make 75-21-4, but it's just hot. Like there's just too much rye in it most of the time. Like those barrels at the 3-year, 4-year, 5-year age statement, they're not typically there. It's like more often than not, it's like, this just needs a little bit more time to integrate. Every once in a while you get a single barrel that's just absolutely fantastic, but for when it comes to the batching and the blending, it's like, no, that needs something to hone it in a little bit. And the 9631 has been that. So yeah, interesting.
So have you done much double oaking yet?
Well, technically, yeah. I mean, since not really day one, but pretty early on, AJ was double barreling the double barrel cut
Yeah.
50 corn, 50 cane.
That's going into a used barrel, though, right?
Initially a new barrel.
Okay.
And then secondly into a used barrel.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. What's the third one we're going to sip on?
Yeah, so I'm going to pass around probably the most divisive finish in the entire industry.
It's an Amberana?
This is it. Yeah, this is it.
It's funny, I tell people all the time that this is the one. It's a palate killer. It can really, really like mess with you for the rest of the day if you don't really know what's going to hit you. But B, I found that people either love it or they hate it. I find very few people that are like, oh man, that's like I just really don't know how I feel about this. I feel like it's definitely the most divisive of the of the blended or finished bourbons per se. So what's the mash bill on this one?
So this is actually, and what we found over time is that 50 corn, 50 cane single barrel cut, once aged in the new barrel, that spirit is a chameleon. And we've done several finishes with it. Then the finishing it in a high rye bourbon cask yields all these rum notes that are just absolutely fantastic. We've finished it in, just here locally, obviously not released, but honey cask, and it tasted as if though the bees made the whiskey. It's probably the best way to describe it. We've done maple finish with it here locally, and again, it's just a chameleon. It just adapts to whatever you end up mixing it with. And I think my intuition there is that the single barrel cut is the best of what corn whiskey has to offer. It's the butterscotch, the caramel, the sweetness, the brightness, it's all there.
So this one is about 113 proof. It's 112.8, and you call this one the Turkey. Is it Turkey Boy or Turkey Bay?
That was originally going to be Turkey Bay, but we've since decided just to go with batch numbers. So that will be batch 1.
Batch 1. Boy, that is cinnamon toast crunch on the nose.
I was going to say, or more of a cinnamon crumble of some sort, but then it's got a little bit of funk, because you'd mentioned rum.
Yes,
and it goes so Scott and I have had a rum that was first aged in Amberana and then in a bean barrel for another 4 years. This has that funky, crunchy, crispy, desserty nose.
So the process here was we batched, I think, 4 25-gallon barrels of single barrel cut. And these were all just over 3 years old, if I remember correctly. Put this into an Amberana cask, and we tasted it literally every day, every single day. Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? We kept some of the original spirit back, and we got to a place where we were fairly happy with it. Thought maybe went a little too far, so then we took it out of the Amberana cask. We put it into one of our high corn bourbon casks and let it rest for a couple more months after that to tone it back down.
When you're saying it, so how many barrels did it start with?
4.
Okay.
425s, yeah.
And then at the end? So how many, did you lose any from going from barrel to barrel?
No, not in the 2 weeks it was in there. No.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch married Sugar Crisp. You remember the Sugar Crisp cereal?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's almost got like a honey note to it, like a sweetness to it, and then like that cinnamon and that sugar just absolutely just punches you in the all over your mouth.
Yeah, this is like Honey Crisp, the little combs.
Yeah,
things.
No, that's honeycombs. Honey Crisp is like they almost look like coffee beans. They're like super small. They had Sugar Crisp the bear on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get a cinnamonish buttercream on the nose. I mean, it's very
super sweet.
It's very fat guy on the nose.
Yeah,
which is
100%.
That's a compliment.
I love it.
I've had more Amberana than I thought I would ever like, and I never have up until now. There's something different about this. It may be that what you blended it with in terms of the barrel, but this is very special.
I think the high corn, or at least wait a minute, you did 50-50 with this, right?
Yeah, this is the barrel cut
Yeah.
spirit, right? But then we let it rest in a high corn for about 3 months after we finished aging in the Amberana.
The sweetness that this comes off of, because usually with all the other Amberana finishes are usually their typical 75 to 80 corn, rye and everything like this. there's something extra that comes with that, because between the sweetness of the corn, possibly, that the little bit of the moonshine cut that you have in there.
Right.
Yeah, it's really hitting different, and it's really nice.
Yeah, it's sweet.
But I think one of the key pieces here is it does not get into that medicinal territory.
No,
and
not at all.
overcooked Amberana is so medicinal. It's just
can.
doesn't get you there. Yeah,
Rubber bands.
Yeah,
is when that happens. When
yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, it's like it's like if you soak rubber bands in an Amberana barrel. And this is it is nowhere close to that.
I think this one's really good.
So it's funny, brewers were using Amberana cask a long time before they ever made it to the distillery side. So anytime you find something with this flavor profile, like for me, it and I'm going to use the word, it harkens back to some of those like really, really cinnamon forward beers that like some of the brewers would do, that they would finish in these casks. So like this has just got that money spot as far as like that sweetness is marrying with that cinnamon so well.
And the finish part of it, it doesn't go Amberana.
Right.
It goes
Right.
back to the corn. Like,
It does, yeah.
Which is, I've never had that before.
I dare say that you get intimations of. I'm sure you all have had cachaça that they use actually to age in these Amberana casks, and it's like it's there. Like there's intimations of that flavor palette there, which is, I think, fascinating to have actually achieved, because most of the time when you see these other finishes, it's so overpowered. It's just so Amberana forward. You'd lose the spirit. Yeah.
I could see a stout being aged in that barrel.
Yeah.
That
Stout.
would be.
Oh yeah. I'm down for that.
Porters, stouts, any of your dark beers will typically marry fairly well with these things. But you have to find one that has like a really, really nice fruit note to kind of carry it forward. What's the name of it? Scarlet Lane. They're closed now out of McCordsville. That's where they were at in Indianapolis, or just outside of Indianapolis. They had one that was called Katrina McClure. And like it had like that rich, like plummy type fruit note that went with this, and it went like amazingly with it. So I'm almost curious to see what that would do. Like if you found somebody that had a really, really rich dark wine, and then you send them the Amberana cask after it's already had like one iteration of bourbon in it, let them finish some wine or something like that, and then bring it back just to see if you can pick up those extra fruit notes, because I think that could be really, really special if somebody could find, an iteration of that.
I tell you what I want to do with this cask, and I'm probably going to have to twist AJ's arm to make it happen, but we've got a absolutely delicious 95.5 rye that is apple and slight licorice and leather and just such a fantastic finish. It's not pepper, coriander. It's not a typical rye.
Right.
I had the opportunity to put, you've seen those aging screws.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to finish a bottle of it with one of the aging screws of Amberana, and it was just decadent, just on a whole different level.
Huh.
I would love to finish this cask out with that run.
Just do it.
Yeah.
I give you permission.
I think we need to. Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than
well,
permission, Cody.
Yeah.
The Rick Houseman can hold how many barrels?
About 3,200.
And you could probably hide a barrel in here and he
Oh,
have
yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
Or not that you would ever do that.
Barrels, bodies, whatever it takes.
Hey, country hams,
There you go.
please.
Country hams. What would a country ham hanging in a rick house taste like?
One question that I have, I think we've touched on most of the mash bills. I think we still left out the 4-grain mill.
Yeah, let me come back to that. I do want to say, you never know who ends up listening. If there is a distiller out there that is listening and is interested in doing an Amberana finish, I cannot stress enough, less is more.
100%. People don't know.
Yep. Yeah, true story. I mean, it's
We've done our own internal experimentation with some the Amberana chips.
Yeah.
Yep.
And doing a couple things, and it doesn't take much.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's so aggressive.
We did a Midwest Barrel Company. We did a kind of collaboration where they sent me a bunch of Amberana chips, and what we did was basically took like a 2-gallon jar, poured a whole bunch of different things. We did one that we was right around 100 proof. We mixed it 50-50 between Wild Turkey 101 and OPFO 100, and we finished that for, I think it went 11 days with like 4 ounces of chips, which is 4 ounces is nothing for a couple of gallons of water. I mean, for a couple of gallons of bourbon. And then we did the same thing at cash strength. And oddly enough, there were 2 bottles of Casey Jones in that. So it was the the Bloody Butcher one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there was 2 bottles that were cask strength. I think they were Justin House of Bourbon picks, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And they somehow ended up in there with, and at that time it was weird because like I had like this much left of like 4 Roses, and then I had this much of this. Like they were all cask strength, and it ended up coming out at like 118 proof, which was kind of neat.
Yeah.
But dude, it was money. Like the fact that and I think it went 13 days at cask strength, so it was not very long for like literally a few ounces of those Amberana chips.
Cody, so question for you. So with each of these releases, when you taste it, do you kind of see yourself in a certain setting like that would really highlight it? Because just for me, this last one, 55 degrees, back porch, my wife just made French toast, and I'm sipping this. That is what this last one is for me.
Yeah, it's a great question.
You really set the mood there.
No,
Brian.
These are the
Negligee?
Okay.
for him.
Wow.
That's a
wanna say
picture I can't get
boxers.
out of my mind now, Cody. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no, it's these are the kind of questions that live rent free in my head all the time, and I think not what negligee you're wearing. Sorry, no, it's I have this idea of like you can think of bourbon as a commodity, and the commoditization of the industry will be its demise. I think if you embrace it as an experience and as an extension of community and groups and great conversations and milestones and landmarks and connectivity as an experience, I think that's where it really has its legs. And so I do think about like, what's your bourbon place? And so I have thought about like when you're drinking something, what does it need to feel like? What are you feeling internally as you experience it? And I think for us, we spend many an afternoon, particularly in the summertime, after putting in a good day's work. And we're not shy of the fact that, being in Western Kentucky, we
Just say it. Just say it.
well, we're not in the Golden Triangle. I mean, our horses don't run derbies. They plow fields, and like it's like this is working man's land. Like this is what it is, and we've got families that come out here and struggle and strife and make ends meet, and that's kind of the heritage of Western Kentucky, and that's we embrace that 100%. So there's many days that we spend 12, 13 hours working at the distillery because it's passion. And, we might end up on the porch on the countryside, and it's beautiful out here, and blessed to be a part of it. And, we'll be sipping on some bourbon and just having a good conversation and just proud of putting in a good day's work. And
Yep.
That's it.
100%. It's the old pull up the chair method, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's sit around, let's talk around the campfire, let's talk around the front porch, what happened today, what's going on. And you're right. We should always try to think about bourbon as the experience and the fellowship that goes along with it rather than what you're actually drinking sometimes.
Yeah. And I mean, I only mean to communicate that, we're not in the hustle and bustle of Metropolis. Like
Right.
we're way out here, and that is what it is.
There's two things that always stick in my head. One is Freddie Johnson's basic tenet that bourbon is for sharing.
Yeah.
The second is when you go through the Rabbit Hole Distillery, there is a wall that says bourbon is a verb. And that just resonates so strongly with me. I mean, it's not a liquid, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. There's just so much more to bourbon than the liquid.
Yeah.
Everybody gets different tastes. I work in a wine and spirit store, and people ask for my opinion, and I'm happy to give it, but I also tell them I am one person. What I think is maybe totally different than what you think, but that doesn't make either of us wrong.
Oh, I can tell you what your opinion is.
But here's what I want to say about this set of bottles that we've tried today. I have not been a fan of finished products, but these are different because of what they add to the initial product. I don't like wine, port, sherry, kind of finishes, but there's something different about these. Even though it's apricot wine, but it's not Cabernet, it's not sherry, it's not Merlot. There's the fruitiness to it, and I've had a little bit of maple, which I did not particularly like, but this one hit just very nicely.
Yep.
And then Amburana to me has always been, quote unquote, the cigar blend kind of taste, but there's nothing like that in this product today, and I'm very impressed.
I still to this day don't understand why people call Amburana cigar batch. Like, I really don't. Like, because when I think of a traditional cigar batch, right, it's like Armagnac and port or sherry, and then like all those 3 or 4 different finishes that go into it, and they don't taste anything like an Amburana finish would be.
But the first Amburana finish stuff that I had that was called cigar blend, when I drank it, I felt like I was drinking an ashtray.
Yeah.
And it has colored my opinion ever since. And I've never gotten away from that until really today.
There you
this
go.
is so much different.
Yeah, and over the years, when I've taste finished whiskeys, there's a lot of separation in the bottle, and these are very, very connected. Like, there's no highs or lows. It's just it's an experience. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're aiming for, I think, with finish. And just to put a pin, I still do owe a explanation on the 75 10 10 5.
It's all good. It's all good. No worries.
Just wanted to, I haven't forgot that one. So I think that you're looking for a situation where the sum of the parts is greater as a whole. Like, that's what you're looking for, is that, okay, you've got this great mash bill, and it brings these things to the table. And then you have these finished barrels, and it brings these things to the table. But what does the sum product look like? What can it bring that's new, that's unexpected from both? And that's what we're aiming for.
100%. So let's go to the 75 10 10 5.
Yeah, so to close the loop on mash bills, we this is another thing that we're blending. In 17, we were really at the epicenter of what was dubbed the Great American Eclipse. It spanned from the West Coast up in Washington and ran all the way down, I guess, South Carolina. It was
it went through the Louisville area where we're from, and so we enjoyed that.
I think Indy hit more of the 100% than we did.
Yeah,
in
we were
Southern
like
Indiana.
the 95%.
95, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as it turns out, the best place to watch that eclipse in 17 was 3 miles away from the distillery.
Huh.
It was the epicenter. And so we had 10,000 plus people here over the weekend for the eclipse. It was wild. This is pre-Rick House. This is pre-distillery building. This was early times.
Right. Pun intended.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I think Peg and AJ actually rented out the field next to us, that, kind of behind us in the distillery, and used it for parking. There was glamping, there was camping, there was hot air balloons. Somebody got proposed to. It was wild. It was a whole party.
baseball diamond.
That's in Iowa. You build it and they'll come, right?
That's what she said.
Hey. Might have to edit that one out.
Only if you want me to.
So AJ had the foresight to create and trademark Total Eclipse Moonshine about a year prior to the eclipse landing. Brilliant move. And, that was a huge sort of like step up, glow up for the distillery at the time. And then, of course, 24, we almost had a perfect crisscross of another total eclipse. We ended up with like 98 and some change totality here. It wasn't perfectly over the distillery. It was fairly close. But to celebrate, we created a 4-grain bourbon, the Total Eclipse bourbon, to kind of play off of the eclipse lineage with the distillery story. And that's a blend of 75-21-4 rye forward bourbon and 75-25 wheat forward bourbon. And so we end up with this 75-10-10-5 mash bill. And it's fascinating. I mean, right off the bat, you get this distinct citrus orange forward sort of nose, which is just really unusual for a bourbon, period. And the follow-up, now that those barrels have actually they've just hit their 4-year mark, beginning of last month, I think. They're the follow up on the body is like you get a distinct like expressed orange peel on the body, and then it finishes in this very distinct, not sweet but just pecan nuttiness, which is just phenomenal. But yeah.
So you want to make that into an old fashioned?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like
Sounds delicious already.
Yeah, perfect for it actually.
100%. So
one thing, as I think we're going to start working on closing up, I noticed you have a very nice addition. I'm not sure how recent it was for your event center of trying to host events here.
Yeah, so distilleries are really, again, if you guys want to come back and do the whole economics of distilleries and the business, I mean, I'm down for it. This is the kind of stuff I like to geek out about. But distilleries are really kind of in the unfortunate position of not being able to be one business.
no.
Oh no, yeah. I think that trying to expand as much as you can to do what you can.
Yeah.
As I said to April, shut the front door. Really?
So, primarily we're manufacturing and spirits manufacturing at that. And so, you try to aim most of your resources at the product production and development and the marketing for that. But then keep the lights on. And then obviously in accordance with sort of consumer expectations and behaviors, it's like you have to provide and want to provide a great experience. And so we're obviously in the tourism space with the tastings and the tours that we host. But then being a part of the local community and being a venue is obviously really important for us. As we want to be good neighbors, and so many people want to take advantage of having the facility to be able to host our events. So we're we've got an event center out here, and we have all sorts of groups come out and spend time with us and get to enjoy all that the facility has to offer. And of course, the May 2nd dinner and tasting with the distiller here in the Rick House is going to be pretty fantastic. So that's something we're very into.
Is that going to be kind of like a pairing of like food with the actual bourbon?
Yeah, so we've got a couple younger couple that run a food truck called Palate Junkies. Just great solid earth people, and they're going to come actually curate the food and do the table service and whatnot. And they are taking some of the finish line spirits to do an infusion with. And so the whole dinner and experience is based on this release and these three spirits. So they're actually making some of the maple with the maple bourbon. So
there we go.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
One thing that I've noticed since I've been here today is that you all talk about an experience, but you actually live it. I mean, people are getting out of their cars and they're being greeted before they ever enter the building. They're, smiles and welcoming, and it's just one of those things where you feel at home immediately, and I was very impressed by that.
I really appreciate that. We've not yet really and shame on me, it's probably totally my fault, but we've not really articulated a very clear vision and mission statement yet. There are brand values that are really important to us and experiences that are really important to us. And sort of the MO behind the business is good spirits for good spirits. And so we want every person who experiences anything that we do to feel part of and with and integrated with, and to feel comfortable and relaxed and at home. And that's really important to us. And I don't know if you all noticed, when you did your tasting, there's a little bit of I don't think I've ever shared this on a podcast yet. There's a little bit of an Easter egg next time you're here to look up at the banners above the tasting bar. And you'll see on the outside of the sort of metal banners hanging around the main tasting bar, you'll find product. It'll be bourbons, barrel cuts, moonshines. But on the inside, you'll find some of our brand values, the virtues, craftsmanship, authenticity, patience. And it's because it's what's on the inside that counts.
So I told my wife, one of these days I want to start my own label or brand. We've always talked about different things, but I told her that I said my big moniker or things like that is that it's all about customer service, and you always try to under-promise and over-deliver. Mm-hmm. So when you meet people at the door and you do things like that, like those are the things that are important. Like people notice that they're being welcomed properly, or that when they're walking the door, people always give Chick-fil-A so much, like, hey, great for the my pleasure and welcome and things like that. But it's more than that. It's the experience with everything, right? So customer service. So it's super important. So it is nice to see people that do greet you at the door and, are good with joking with you.
Yeah.
So she leaned into my sense of humor, which is hard sometimes because I tell people I'm the same mean cuss to everybody. Like I pick on everybody regardless. The legend probably cried twice on the way up here.
He also fell asleep twice.
He also fell asleep twice, yeah. but like the fact that she leaned into it so much, like I greatly appreciate those type of things. So it's really, really nice when you see people that are customer centric and not just doing a job.
I think a lot of companies can they can provide great customer service, but when it turns into like creating a feeling, like that's the separation. That's the thing that people talk about.
Yeah.
What is it that they say? People may forget the words that you use, but they'll never forget the way that you made them feel.
Yeah.
So we all felt that on the way in.
Excellent.
And the entire day.
Excellent.
So I want to be respectful of your time. So how do people get Casey Jones? Where do they get it? Where do they buy it? If they want to come visit you guys, how do they do that? And then what are some of the experiences they can enjoy while doing that?
Yeah, so we try to be as accessible as humanly possible. Liquor laws being what they are, with 3-tier in states, distributions.
Go ahead, sorry.
Distribution's an interesting affair, and I've got some great distributor partners in Tennessee and Georgia. I'm available in several states, right? But fortunately, we've been able to partner with a direct-to-consumer platform, so I can actually ship via fulfillers to pretty much anywhere in the U.S., which is great. And we've been really pushing forward with that initiative just to be able to provide access to the product. In fact, the Finish Line series that we just tasted today, I've got, as I said earlier, less than 50 now, but those bottles are available for pre-order online at the moment. We have fully integrated online booking for all of our experiences, but we always encourage people just hop in the car and show up, and you'll be treated right from day one. It's like from the moment you set foot on property, we'll treat you like family, but like the family you actually like. So it's an important distinction. So we've got. And we're really exploring some other ideas for the experience on site this year. But we have obviously a tour experience, a tasting experience. One of the things that's great about the tour is that we, as mentioned earlier, we probably have the second most compelling story in the industry, which is really fascinating. You get a chance to really see this up front and in person. We've got one of the best value tastings on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. You're going to be tasting between 13, 14, 15 different spirits. I think it just depends on the rotation. Yeah. And you get 10 pours, $10. It's hard to beat.
That is hard to beat.
That's hard to beat. And then we just launched recently, last September, actually, a mash maker experience, which is, I think, probably an industry first. It gives you a chance to kind of go beyond the 51% corn tour and really learn a little bit more about what the science and chemistry behind what the grains actually do. The difference between corn, rye, wheat, malted barley, and the gelatinization process, and what they contribute to the spirit in the distillation, in the cook, in the fermentation, in the actual aging. And then you get to help crowdsource your own bourbon. So everybody gets to pick 3 pans, basically, of grains of their choice, and mill on the original mill that we used for the first 8 years of operation. Contribute that milled grain to collected bins where we calculate the crowdsourced mash bill on a quarterly basis. So like we're in the middle of the spring 2025 mash bill right now, and at the end of Q2 we'll end up collecting all of that up and then actually distilling that, making that white dog and available online for order before we end up barreling that and then releasing that 4 years into the future. So
that mill is the one that was used for the first 8 years.
Yeah, that was it.
Dude, it's tiny.
It's tiny. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. Like it was neat and fun, but I'd like to see somebody take that the next step. Like where maybe you take a name, every single person that's done that, you put their name in a lottery, and they actually get to come down and actually make it with the master distiller.
Oh yeah, we've got all sorts of ideas stemming off of this piece that we want to, integrate and get into works. A lot to do with well, I mean, I just won't say, but like, there's a lot of really cool ideas that we
Yeah.
want to play off with this for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
So if they want to find Casey Jones, how do they get here?
Yeah. So it sounds like your Google experience earlier when we started was not favorable, which is there's all sorts of reasons as to why. But CaseyJonesDistillery.com is the website. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok when I feel like updating it. That's a challenge. Wear a lot of hats. It's one of them. We've got an email list and you name it. So, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you guys are located, you got an address for here?
Yeah, it's 2815 Whitty Lane in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, 42240.
And for the record, so it was your Facebook marketing that brought us here.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it was, I'm like, I looked at the double barrel cut. I'm like, yes, please.
Thank you.
And then I'm like, I want to send out an email and see if anybody responds.
Yeah.
15 minutes later, somebody responds. And then they connect. Yes. Yeah. So I'm like, and when I heard what your responsibilities were, I'm like, how the heck does that guy do all that stuff?
That's, exceedingly kind to hear. It really is.
Do you have a twin?
Do you have a negligee?
Wait, all right, only on the bottom.
We don't want to know this. What I always say is, if I was any better, I'd be twins, but I'm not sure the world could handle two of me. So we'll just go with that. How about that?
Yeah, fair enough. No, I do very much appreciate it. I really do.
Well, good deal. I think that's our episode of Bourbon Barrel Talk. If you want to find us, you can find us on Facebook, the Instagram, or the X. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. That way you get our episodes as soon as they drop on Sunday mornings. If you have any questions or comments, you can email them to bourbonbarreltalk@gmail.com or message us on Facebook or Instagram. This is Scott, the legend, BP, Nick Brock, and Cody Turner signing off from Casey Jones. Peace out.
Prost.
To infinity.